humans are selfish, right? You could argue that it's our strongest instinct, but we like to think of ourselves as better than that. We're social creatures who care for each other and the people we love. But how much of this caring is nature and how much is nurture? Are humans naturally selfish, or do we learn to be so? The idea that humans are selfish isn't exactly a new one. It pops up all over literature from the Bible to the Jungle Book. But this debate has also been raging in the field of psychology for decades. And there's evidence on both sides. So let's jump into the jungle and take a look at what psychology says about human selfishness. So why might we be selfish? For an evolutionary psychologist, the answer is simple. Our brains are programmed to be selfish. We're born with certain instincts that make sure we survive, and if we don't look out for no one, well, our genes don't get passed on. This is called gene-centered theory, or the selfish gene theory. It's first proposed in the 1960s. This theory suggests that natural selection only cares about passing on genes, not about the organism or its survival. Genes don't care if you're happy or fulfilled, they just want to be replicated. This view is supported by some pretty compelling evidence. Like all living things, humans have evolved over millions of years of natural selection. During this process, beneficial traits got preserved and passed down, while less advantageous ones got weeded out. So you could argue that everything we do is a result of traits that help us survive and reproduce. All of our behaviors, including seemingly selfless ones, are ultimately selfish, because they increase our odds of passing on our genes. But there's another school of thought. Human altruism may not just be about our genes after all. Social psychologists say that human beings are born as psychological altruists. What does that mean? Well, humans are highly social creatures. From the moment we're born, we rely on others for our survival. Our brains have evolved to be attuned to social cues and relationships. That means we're also capable of empathy. We can understand what other people are going through because we know what we would feel in their situation. Because of this, we can predict what others will do based on how we would behave, which makes social interactions easier to navigate. This is called the empathy-altruism hypothesis, and it was first put forward in 1964. Basically, we're empathetic, so we help others because we literally can't help but understand their perspectives. However, this doesn't mean that humans are always nice. As we grow up, we have to learn how to regulate our emotions. And when we don't learn how to do that, selfishness can result. Some researchers even suggest that selfishness is actually a form of mental illness. In fact, psychopathy is defined as a combination of interpersonal, emotional, and behavioral traits that include selfishness. So maybe selfishness isn't innate to human nature. Instead, it's a maladaptive behavior that comes from not learning how to process emotions properly. So which of these theories is correct? Well, both sides have valid points. After all, humans can be pretty darn selfish. There are countless examples of people willing to step on anyone to get ahead, but humans can also be extremely generous and kind. Think of all the charities we donate to, the friends we help move, the colleagues we cover for it. Clearly, humans can be both. So instead of viewing this as an either-or question, some researchers have attempted to explain the circumstances under which humans are more likely to be selfish. For instance, sometimes our selfishness comes out simply because we have to look out for ourselves. According to equity theory, we compare the contributions we make with others to determine if we're being treated fairly, if we put in more work than someone else, but are paid the same amount. We feel like we're being exploited. And it turns out our brain doesn't like feeling exploited. In this situation, we'll often try to restore the balance by working less or asking for more money. On the flip side, if we're putting in less work but are still paid the same as everyone else, we feel like we've struck gold. Equity theory suggests that this makes us feel satisfied, which can translate into more effort in the relationship, like being more flexible or compromising more. In other cases, our selfishness can stem from fear. According to the social exchange theory, we evaluate our relationships based on the rewards and punishments they bring. In any relationship, we keep track of how much we give and how much we get in return. Now, this doesn't have to be about tangible things like gifts or money. Rewards can also be intangible, like emotional support or affection, and punishments can be negative outcomes, like being ignored or yelled at. According to social exchange theory, we compare the rewards to punishments in our relationships, and if they outweigh the negatives, then we continue being part of that relationship. But if the punishments outweigh the rewards, we leave. Think of it like a cost-benefit analysis. If the costs are too high, we're out. So clearly, selfishness can arise from our need to look out for ourselves, but it can also be triggered by fear of loss. A meta-analysis published in 2021 suggests that fear plays a major role in our selfishness. When people were afraid of losing something, whether it was money, time, or a relationship, they were more likely to engage in selfish behavior. But here's where things get interesting. The study also found that fear of losing something didn't make people more selfish towards everyone. They were only more selfish towards people they perceived as being in competition with them. Researchers pegged this as an attempt to protect oneself from exploitation. In situations where participants believed they were being exploited, they were more likely to act selfishly when they were afraid of losing something. And finally, sometimes selfishness is just a matter of perspective. Let's say you find an extra $100 lying around. According to the trickle-down theory, you're more likely to spend that money helping out a stranger than your own family. Why? Because the benefit doesn't trickle down. By helping a stranger, you're getting immediate gratification. But when you give money to a family member, you expect them to eventually use it to help others. Meaning the benefits are spread out over time, and people are less likely to experience them directly. However, there's a caveat. This theory only applies when the amount of money is small. If you found, say, $10,000 lying around, you'd probably be more likely to hoard it, regardless of who you give it to. So the size of the reward seems to play a role in how selfish you'll be. So the jury's still out on whether humans are basically selfish or not. Most psychologists agree that we're capable of both selfless and selfish acts, and the key to understanding human behavior lies in the circumstances that make us more likely to act one way or the other. But perhaps the most important takeaway from all of this is that we're all human. We're all capable of amazing acts of kindness, but also of terrible acts of selfishness. The world can be a dark place, but seeing both the good and bad in people helps us navigate it. So next time you see an act of incredible generosity in the news, remember to also pay attention to the selfishness. After all, it's only by understanding both sides of human nature that we can work towards making the world a better place. Now, you know a thing or two about selfishness. Do you know what cognitive biases are? These are systematic errors in thinking that affect all of us. And the good news is that knowing what they are, we can overcome them.